Imagine having to save your city, but needing a sexy, grumpy, angry former NFL star to pull it off. Janice Jones has one shot to revive the city of Petersburg. All she needs is Rowan Rhodes, the hometown hero who refuses to be seen. So she makes him a deal: show up, clean up, and save Christmas. But when his glow-up hits, so do her feelings. Now the question is, does he feel it too? Welcome to Christmas in Old Town Love Stories, where ambitious women, unexpected love, and the holiday spirit collides. If you believe in soft love, second chances, and Christmas miracles, like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. We'd appreciate your support. All of these stories are a part of the world for our upcoming film, Christmas in Old Town. Now, let's get into the story. It's a good one. Janice Jones did not do failing events. No, the gorgeous, caramel-hued, polished, pixie hair sporting 45-year-old Janice did not do failing anything. Not on her watch, not in her city, and definitely not at Christmas time. And yet here she was standing in the middle of Petersburg's historic square, heels planted, coat tailored, patience thinning, staring at what could only be described as a holiday crime scene. Twinkle lights, gone, garlands, hanging on for dear life. City morale critically low. "This is bad," muttered Brianna, the city planner, hands on her hips as she surveyed the damage. "That's generous," Janice replied smoothly, already mentally drafting a press release that didn't scream we're in trouble. Beside her, the mayor remained calm, because of course she did. The woman could probably negotiate world peace before breakfast. "It's temporary," the mayor said. "That horrible storm made this mess, but Public Works is sending another cleanup crew tonight." Maeve, the mayor's assistant, checked her watch, effortlessly chic as always. Christmas is in about 3 weeks. Temporary has a very tight window. Janice exhaled slowly, eyes scanning the square again, but this time not for what was broken, for what it could be. Because where everyone else saw damage, Janice saw opportunity. And she needed a win. Not just for the city, but for the National Holiday Showcase Award she'd quietly entered Petersburg into. Win that and the city gets funding. Tourism, buzz, lose, well, let's not. "Okay," Janice said, clapping her hands once, energy shifting. "We don't panic, we pivot," Maeve smirked. "That sounded expensive." "It's going to be iconic," Janice corrected. Because if there was one thing Janice Jones knew how to do, it was turn a mess into a moment. And if there was one thing the mayor knew how to do, it was use all available resources, every little bit. "Maeve," the mayor said casually, which usually meant it wasn't casual at all. "How is married life treating you these days?" Maeve didn't even look up from her tablet. She cooed, "I love that man, he's so chill. We've been working on the house. Painting everything white. You know I don't do color." Janice smirked. "Lies, you wore lavender last week." Brianna gasped softly. "Maeve is wearing colors now." Maeve finally looked up, unbothered. "It was a muted lavender." "Uh-huh," Janice said. "Your fine husband Kim got you in pastels, and look at you, one step away from florals." Brianna laughed. Maeve gave a half smile. It was well known that Maeve's wardrobe consisted of only neutrals, but Tay had convinced her that she looked beautiful in colors, so every now she'd bust out with a red dress. The mayor clasped her hands, fully facing Maeve. "Speaking of Tay," she began with a mischievous look, "what do you think about asking your global superstar husband if he'd be willing to perform at our Christmas Eve event?" Maeve was surprised at this question. Her husband was a former K-pop mega star turned A-list actor. When he wasn't shooting a new film, on a promotional tour, or being interviewed, he was spending every moment with the love of his life, Maeve. She blinked once. "You want me to casually ask my husband if he'd like to headline our Christmas Eve market?" Janice stepped in smoothly. "We understand that he's a worldwide phenomenon, so don't think of this as small-town concert. Picture it as intimate, charming, exclusive." The mayor interjected, strategic. Maeve exhaled. "Even I would have to go through his manager, Ji-sun." "Perfect," Janice said instantly. "Set the meeting, I'll handle the pitch." Maeve studied her and then chuckled. "You're very confident for someone who is standing in a holiday disaster zone." Janice smiled. "You know I do my best work under pressure." Brianna muttered. "That's concerning." The very next day all of them were on a conference call with Ji-sun. Ji-sun did not look impressed. She was elegant, precise, and had the energy of someone who had said no to very powerful people and slept just fine afterward. But Janice loved a challenge. "With all due respect," Ji-sun said, "Tay's schedule is extremely tight. Even when he appears to be available, he is not. Plus, he already performed at your festival 2 years ago. Remember when he was stuck here with the bad weather? We remember that's when he met our girl. Brianna nudged Maeve, who actually gave a big-toothed smile for that comment. Ji-sun put her nose in the air. I think he's running out of favors. Janice nodded. Understood. There was a pause, then, but what if this isn't just a performance? Ji-sun tilted her head slightly. What do you mean? Janice leaned forward, voice warm, persuasive. What if this is a moment? She slid a mock-up on the screen branding, headlines, concept art. One night only, a reunion. Not just Tae, but his entire former K-pop group. We could get Kairos 5 together again, in a setting no one would expect. Ji-sun's eyes flicked at this, despite herself. Janice had gotten her attention. Global press, viral content, a nostalgic return but elevated, Janice continued, and positioned as a gift to fans. Silence stretched. Then, a reunion would require multiple approvals, Ji-sun said carefully. Janice smiled. Of course, I'd expect nothing less. Ji-sun looked back up. I will make the calls. Janice sat back, calm on the outside, fireworks on the inside. That evening, Janice and Brianna celebrated at her ranch. Brianna's husband Grant was out of town on business, but Mrs. Anderson, the ranch manager, was there, and she made her signature roasted chicken, salad from the greenhouse, and mashed potatoes. Pancake, Brianna's golden border collie, circled around Mrs. Anderson's legs as she poured wine for the two. Ooh, I can't wait for the reunion of Kairos 5, she yelled. Janice smiled with shock. Mrs. Anderson, you're into K-pop. Mrs. Anderson gave Pancake the pat he was waiting for before answering. They are too cute, and I love watching them dance, especially that hunky Tae Kim. You know, I've seen all of their shows in this area, but the boys haven't performed in years. Brianna smiled. Well, I learn something new about you every day. Mrs. Anderson did some quick moves from a Kairos 5 video, and Pancake joined in, two with a flip and a twirl. Janice laughed. I see you too, Brianna added. Janice, you're gonna have everyone shaking their thing this Christmas. Janice sighed. I sure hope so, God willing. Just then Ji-sun's name lit up Janice's phone. Janice answered with a smile. Tell me everything. A pause, and just like that, she knew it was bad news. I'm so sorry, Ji-sun said. Tae has been booked for a film overseas, immediate departure. Janice closed her eyes, but the reunion will not be possible this time, but maybe later. Silence. Then understood, Janice said, her voice smooth, steady, professional. They ended the call. Janice stared at her phone for a long moment, then set it down very carefully. No Tae, Brianna asked softly. Janice shook her head once, and then silence enveloped the room. Hey loves, oh no, we won't get a reunion of Tae and his boy bandmates. Serious question, we are considering making a love story about one of the bandmates falling in love with Maeve's best friend. What do you guys think? Would you like that story? Please leave a comment. Now let's get back to this one. The next morning when Janice walked into City Hall, she was bum-rushed by Maeve, who exhaled. I'm so sorry Tae can't do it, but like you said earlier, we don't panic, we pivot. We have an idea on how to do just that. Janice didn't respond, didn't move, was too frustrated. The mayor stepped forward, and that's when she said, have you heard Rowan Rhodes is back in town? Janice looked up slowly. Rowan Rhodes, the Rowan Rhodes. Even saying his name felt like opening a time capsule. Petersburg's golden boy, Super Bowl star. The one who disappeared after his big injury. He's been back for a few weeks, the mayor continued, keeping to himself. Brianna walked up with a frown. I heard he doesn't want to be bothered, Maeve added. I heard he has a crazy beard now. Janice blinked. The baby-faced pretty boy legend? Yes, Maeve said. A seriously wild one. Janice considered this. Then a slow smile spread across her face. Oh, I love a challenge. The mayor met her eyes. Go get him, Janice. Maeve walked over to Janice. I'm texting you his phone number and address. Janice asked, how did you get that? The mayor placed her hands on both hips. Now, come on, who is the mayor here? All of them laughed because the mayor was quite formidable, and if you have heard our other love stories, you know that she plays no games. Hey loves, where are you listening from? What do you think is going to happen next? Please leave a note in the comments. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you more than you know. Be sure to watch Maeve and Tay Kim's love story and Brianna's and Grant's right here on this channel. Okay, let's get back into the story. Janice is about to have her hands full. The following day, Janice, Maeve, and Brianna made a trip to Rowan Rhodes' estate. Janice figured she'd need backup for this assignment. Rowan had purchased a heavily gated, renovated Victorian home, but the gate was left curiously open. They drove in with caution. As they knocked on the door for the third time, Brianna said, "The mayor said Rowan Rhodes used to be everywhere. Billboards, jerseys, Sunday nights." Janice quipped, "Now, he doesn't even answer his door." She knocked again. "Are we sure he still lives here?" Janice asked, staring at the quiet house at the end of the long gravel drive. Brianna squinted at the envelope on the ground. "Electric bill says yes." Maeve glanced at the overgrown weeds, but the yard says no. Adjusted her coat. "Okay, noted, we're dealing with a project." Maeve and Brianna sighed. Janice gave them both a look. "No worries, everything is a project." She knocked. Nothing. She knocked again, longer this time. Still nothing. Janice stepped back, eyeing the house like it had personally offended her. "Fine," she muttered. "We'll circle back." Day 2. Knock. Silence. Day 3. A note left in the mailbox. "Hi, not a stalker, just persistent. Would love a quick chat. Signed, Janice Jones, Communications Director for the City of Petersburg." Day 4. Another note. "Again, not a stalker. We're about to change your life. You just don't know it yet. Signed, Janice Jones, Communications Director for the City of Petersburg." Brianna read that one and then blinked. "You're going to get us arrested for trespassing," Maeve added with more despondence. "I suddenly feel like one of Tay's thirsty fans." On day 5, Janice decided to come alone, and that's when she finally saw him. She had just turned back toward her car when she froze. There, off to the side of the house. Rowan Rhodes, not in a stadium, not in a suit, in very old sweats, like the first sweats that were ever made. But he was a massive human being. Extreme muscles apparent through his outerwear, looked unreal in person. Handsomely chiseled face visible even under his wild, matted beard, and unexpectedly kneeling in the dirt. He was tending to a half-dead rose bush like it mattered. Just then, a bunch of kids walked up, looked to be 10 or 11 years old. They were scouts, asking for holiday donations for less fortunate children. He stared at them for a second with gruffness. Janice thought to herself, "Oh no, those poor kids are about to hear it." But then Rowan did something unexpected. He took out his wallet, and instead of giving them a mouthful, or better yet, the $5 online donation they requested, he took a wad of money out. "I trust in cash," he said matter-of-factly before passing the dollars to the oldest-looking child. The kids thanked him profusely before running to their parents' car down the hill. Janice blinked with surprise, but she didn't move right away, didn't speak, because that version of him. That was her way in, and just like that, she had her angle. She walked quietly backwards to her car and left. She would need to make a few calls to create what she had in mind to set Rowan up, in a good way. The next day, she didn't knock. She waited, and this time he opened the door first. "Can I help you?" Rowan asked, voice low, already annoyed. Janice smiled like she'd been invited. "Hi, yes, you can actually." He stared at her, blank, unmoved, and his eyes. His introspecting, penetrating eyes. No wonder he was so good on the field. He probably could see right through to her soul. And he smelled incredible. Something expensive that Janice could not place. But she took all of her might and regained her focus. "Janice Jones," she continued. Rowan interrupted. "I know the communications director for the city of Petersburg. You left a billion notes." Janice straightened. "After calling and texting didn't work, I had no choice. I don't read random things people put in my mailbox." "Okay, well, that feels like a system flaw." Silence. He crossed his arms. "What do you want?" Direct, no fluff, she respected it. "I want 5 minutes." "No." "Great," she said. "I'll take 4. He almost closed the door. "Rowan," she said, stopping him, not pushy, just steady. "We need you." That landed just barely. "I don't do that anymore," he said. "That's fine," Janice replied. "We're not asking for that, whatever that is." He paused. "Then what are you asking for?" Janice smiled. "Something that actually matters." They stood outside. Cold air, visible breath, tension. "No press," Rowan said immediately. "I didn't say anything about press." "No crowds." "Good," Janice said, "because kids are brutally honest and very unimpressed by fame." That almost got him, almost. "It's a Christmas break football camp," she said. Local kids, some of them don't get opportunities like this. He didn't respond, but he didn't walk away either. You wouldn't be a headline, she continued. You'd be a coach. That word sat differently. Coach. Not star, not legend, not what he lost, something quieter. Why me? He asked. Janice shrugged slightly. Because they still believe in you. There was a moment of silence. And whether you like it or not, she added softly, this city does too. Silence stretched, long enough that she thought, okay. This is where he says no. Instead, what kind of time commitment? He asked. Janice blinked once, then smiled slow. It starts tomorrow, but we can work with your schedule. Rowan looked Janice up and down like was assessing something, or maybe imaging something. Janice could not tell which. Those dark eyes were unreadable, and he didn't make it easier by letting on in any way. Rowan may have looked disheveled and dirty from working outside, or from just not giving a care, but even considering that, he was still unbelievably, devastatingly handsome. He was the golden-faced pretty boy that graced the cereal boxes during Janice's 20s. After all, Rowan was only a few years older than her. I wonder what happened to him, Janice thought to herself. Rowan broke her concentration. Hello, are you there? He said mockingly. I'm extremely present, especially when it comes to putting you to work. Janice blew her nails with exaggeration. Rowan grunted a half laugh. Okay, Janice, is it? Leave the info with me. Janice returned the half smile. The team already emailed the info to you. Rowan shook his head with a slight huff and closed the door. Oh, she just knew I was going to say yes. Janice texted the mayor one simple word, progress. Janice was playing the long game, figuring that if she could get him via the heart with those kids, the Christmas market appearance would be an easy request. It would just take time, which she didn't have much of considering Christmas was 2 weeks away. The first day of camp, Rowan showed up early and said very little. Janice had quickly assembled a group of elementary school-aged football players. She figured they were similar enough to the scouts he'd helped the other day. The local coaches were there, too. On the second, Rowan actually corrected a kid's stance. Feet wider, he said. On the third, good catch. On the fourth day, run it again, you've got it. By the end of the week, he was drawing plays in the dirt, kids crowding around him, laughing. Listening, looking at him like he's still that guy. After all, their parents had told them the glory stories, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't look away. Janice sat beside him, handing over a cup of hot cocoa from Johnny's coffee, and there was spark when their hands touched. Her hands felt small in his large, calloused palms. But the touch was electric, and it traveled through her body. Careful, she said, it's hot. But she thought to herself, but not as hot as you are, before fighting with herself to regain composure. He smiled at her almost as if he could read her mind. They watched the kids run off the field. You're good with them, she said. They're easy, he replied. They don't expect anything. Janice just looked at him. A few days later, Janice stood in front of him again, hands tucked into her coat. So I have a slightly bigger ask, Rowan sighed. Of course you do. She smiled. Growth. I'm not doing a parade. Relax, she said. You'd hate it. I would. I know. There was a pregnant pause. But the Christmas Eve market, she continued. We don't need a speech or a performance. He eyed her. Then what? Janice tilted her head, studying him. We just need you to show up. A pause, then you can say a few words only if you want to, and maybe, she added lightly, let me help you clean up a little. He frowned. I'm clean. Janice cocked her head to the side. That beard and your old clothes say otherwise. Rowan let out a heavy sigh. Here I go letting you talk me into something else. Great, Janice clapped with glee. Now, wait a minute. Rowan scratched his tangled beard. How long have you been thinking about me at the market? I thought you only needed me to help the kids. Janice's face reddened, but before she could answer, her phone rang. Saved by the bell, she thought to herself. Yes, Madam Mayor, she answered before continuing. Right, we have 2 more stops and then I'll be back at City Hall. Janice quickly changed the subject. Ready for your glow-up? I hear there's a chair open at the shop. Glow-up. Rowan asked with confusion, but before she could finish with his question, Janice grabbed his hand and dragged him off the field. The next stop was JJ's Cuts. You brought me here, he said. Janice glanced up at the sign. Yes, a barber shop. He didn't move. I haven't been in one of these in years. That's not shocking, she said, eyeing him. He gave her a look. She smiled sweetly. Come on, they love you here. Rowan let out another heavy sigh. The second they walked in, heads turned, sports blared from the TVs, clippers buzzed, music filled the room, and then, yo, hold up. A barber spun around. It's Rowan Rhodes. Now everybody was looking. JJ popped up from his chair like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. Man, come on, sit right here, he said, already pulling out the chair. Another barber called out, he's been talking about you being back in town all day. Rowan froze, Janice leaned in. No sudden movements, they can smell fear. Someone behind them laughed at this. I'm leaving, he muttered. You're not, she whispered back, guiding him to the chair like a pro. JJ threw the cape over him with extra flair, and bawed like he was King Rowan. Let's get you right, my boy, Rowan grunted. From across the shop, Jay is doing too much, somebody said. A mom in the corner laughed. Janice turned her head, trying very hard not to. JJ reached for Rowan's cap. Rowan stopped his hand. Silence. Janice tapped Rowan's shoulder. She simply said one word, trust. Rowan sighed like this was the worst day of his life and slowly took the cap off. The room reacted immediately. Oh, we got work to do. Someone else sighed, laud. Another said, pray for that beard. Janice pressed her lips together. So what we doing? JJ asked. Rowan opened his mouth. Janice jumped in. Clean him up, bald his head, keep the beard but make it intentional, and moisturized, please. JJ stared at her, then at Rowan, then cracked his neck. Aight, he said, say less. Clippers buzzed, hair fell, the beard got shaped, defined, respected. Rowan watched it all happen in the mirror, quiet, focused, like he wasn't just watching hair fall but something heavier. Janice leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You know, she said casually, this is almost as big as your Super Bowl moment. He glanced at her, then a low chuckle. It surprised both of them. JJ said, I remember that Super Bowl, that's when you got injured. Nobody's seen you since. Bro, I'm honored to have you in my chair. Janice looked nervous at JJ for bringing up what surely caused a fractured spirit, a broken career, and a deep-seated fear of his own worth. But Rowan's face was once again unreadable. Time passed, and then JJ spun the chair around. Check yourself out. Rowan looked, really looked. The beard, clean, sharp, dangerous, honestly. The clean, bald head, intentional. Grown man energy, face, there he was, just upgraded. The mom in the corner clutched her chest. Oh my goodness. Janice's eyes widened. She cleared her throat. You look nice. The mom cut in louder. Nice. He looks better than nice. That man is fine. Janice shot her a look. Rowan glanced at Janice. Janice glanced at Rowan. A beat too long. Unescapable heat crawled low in her belly. He looked good. Beyond good. And she didn't know what to do with that. Professional. Stay professional, she told herself. Janice gathered herself quickly. Okay, clothes, that's what's next. Let's go. JJ cleared his throat. Who pays for this? And Janice quickly said, without missing a beat, your tax dollars hard at work. The city will pay. And she proceeded to take out her work card. But Rowan placed his hand over hers. He looked at himself once again in the mirror, turned to JJ. Thanks, man. You carved a new man out of me. And slid him $300, eyes never leaving Janice. A gentleman always carries cash. I'm old school with it. JJ smiled wider than a Cheshire cat as he counted the bills. Well, we take all forms of currency. Welcome home, champ. Janice took this all in, realizing despite how utterly gorgeous Rowan was, his gorgeous smile, thick muscles, and penetrating eyes, perhaps his spirit inside, was what made him the most attractive. From the corner of her eye, Janice saw that he was looking at her from top to bottom, and she wondered what was he thinking. Hey, loves, are you feeling the romantic tension? What do you think is about to happen, and who do you think will break first? Write Team Janice or Team Rowan in the comments. Okay, let's get back to the story. It's getting juicy. The next stop was the boutique. The bell rang as they walked into the store. Miss Evie looked up and almost passed out. Oh my, she said, grabbing the counter. Janice nodded. Yes, it's Rowan Rhodes. Miss Evie straightened up immediately. Bring him to me. Clothes started flying. Blazers, sweaters, button-downs, extra long floor-length trendy faux furs. Rowan stood there like he'd been personally attacked. I don't need all this. Janice retorted. You absolutely do. I have clothes. You have fabric. Rowan stripped off his shirt to reveal a beast of a chest, all hard muscle. Miss Evie fanned herself. Janice blinked slowly in shock. Outfit one. Rowan stepped out. Miss Evie appeared to be panting. Janice blinked even slower. Okay, outfit 2. He looked good, every single muscle pronounced through the fabric. Outfit 3, Janice looked away, then looked back. All right now, Miss Evie whispered. Lord, forgive me. Rowan adjusted the sleeve. This feels unnecessary. Janice tilted her head. No, this feels effective. Miss Evie was drinking cool water to calm down when Mr. Henderson walked in. He was the city's top tailor. Let me see what we're working with. Mr. Henderson's voice was smooth, precise. He circled Rowan once, measured him like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. Shoulders like that shouldn't be hidden, he muttered. Janice smiled. See, professional opinion. Fabric, fit, structure, a designer suit. A new blazer, soft cashmere. Rowan stood in front of the mirror again, but this time he didn't look away. He straightened slightly, adjusted the cuff, subtle but different. Janice stepped up beside him, met his eyes in the mirror. Well, she said softly, there you are. Rowan held her gaze. Something shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just there. Yeah, he said quietly. They stared at each other for a long moment, but then the mayor stormed in with Maeve by her side. I couldn't wait, Janice, she said, catching Janice off guard. The mayor continued, come with Maeve and I, we're meeting with city council to discuss our holiday events. But then she turned her attention to Rowan. She shook his hands. Nice to meet you in person, Mr. Rhodes. I see that everything is going swimmingly. Thanks for your participation. You'll be an amazing draw for our Christmas market. Rowan faintly smiled at the mayor before facing Janice. Can we have a quick word before you leave? Janice nervously agreed. I'll meet you outside, Madame Mayor. The mayor, who famously had a penchant for attractive, wealthy men, whispered to Janice, My, we'll wait 10 minutes if need us to. Definitely find out what he needs. I'm sensing a spark between you two. And with that, she walked outside with Maeve, who had heard it all and was chuckling to herself. They may have been playing, but Rowan was not. Because when Janice turned to face him, his look was stern. You knew I'd say yes to the kids, he said quietly. Janice blinked. What? The camp, he continued. That was the play, right? Get me in, then get me here. Janice held his gaze. I knew you wouldn't say yes to me, she said honestly. So I gave you something better to say yes to. A pause. He studied her, trying to decide how he felt about that. Still feels like I got played, he grumbled. Slowly, Janice stepped closer. She had been exposed. But then she looked at him, really looked at him. A draw, so that's what all this was for? To be a draw for your Christmas Eve market? Rowan asked. Janice said, honestly, he nodded. She cleared her throat well at first, but only at first. Rowan grunted. Janice walked even closer to him. But you've been so good with the kids. We really do need someone of your caliber at our event. The city is going for a major award. And then she thought for a second before saying, and I, she paused, have really enjoyed my time getting to know you better. This did something to Rowan, but he regained his composure, shook his head, and tugged slightly at the sleeve of his new jacket, like it suddenly didn't fit the way it had a minute ago. This is messy, he muttered. I should say no to all of this. Janice didn't interrupt, didn't rush to fix it. He let out a breath, jaw tight, eyes flicking to the mirror, then back to her. I don't like being managed, he said, or maneuvered. He was quiet for a moment. I've had enough of people deciding what's best for me. That landed. Janice gulped slowly. That's fair. Another quiet moment, and then Rowan began again. But I'm not everyone else. His eyes lifted to hers. Something there, complicated. He looked away first. I need a minute to think, he said, not harsh, but not gentle either. Janice felt it, that instinct to go after him, to explain more, to fix it. But she didn't. Instead, she gave a small nod. Okay. Simple, respectful, adult. He studied her for a second, like he didn't expect that answer. He removed the blazer he'd tried on. I'll find you, he added, almost as an afterthought. And just like that, he was gone. The door closed behind him. Silence. Mr. Henderson and Miss Evie just looked at each other. Janice stood there for a moment, staring at the door after it closed. Her breath left her slowly. And then panic. Not loud, not messy, but sharp, immediate. The kind that hits behind your ribs and starts doing math. Time, the schedule, the event, the award. Him. She forced herself to stay still. Don't chase him. Don't fix it. Don't make it worse. But the clock was not on her side. Hey, loves, who do you think was right in this situation? Janice? Rowan? Or both? It's getting good. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, and share this with a friend who would appreciate a really good love story. We work hard on these, and thank you for listening. We are building a community of people who enjoy a good romance. Now, back to the story. On Christmas Eve night, the square was packed. Like should extra packed, lights everywhere, music, vendors yelling, kids running wild on sugar and holiday spirit. By the time Janice arrived at the Christmas market, the town square was glowing. Lights twinkled across every storefront. The scent of cinnamon and pine hung in the air. Laughter, music, the hum of a crowd that had shown up. It should have felt like a win. It didn't. Janice stood just off to the side of the main stage platform with her headset on, scanning the crowd for a face that wasn't there. Yet, Janice had not bitten her nails since she was 9 years old, but tonight seemed like a good time to start again. Janice, the mayor's voice slid in beside her, sharp, observant. Where is he? Janice straightened slightly, lowering her hand. He'll be here. Maeve, standing just behind the mayor, tilted her head, studying her. That didn't sound convincing. I didn't say it to convince you, Janice replied, a little too quickly. The mayor hummed, unconvinced. That man is our finale, if he doesn't walk out on that platform. He will, Janice cut in, softer this time. He just needs a minute. Maeve's brow lifted. Every second ticked louder out here. Every glance at the stage, every shift in the crowd, it all pressed in. The mayor checked her watch. We're 3 minutes out. Janice nodded, playing it off, even though her stomach dropped. 3 minutes. She clasped her hands together, forcing them still. Don't chase him, trust him. She said a prayer to herself. Heavenly Father, thank you for always being so good to me. In Colossians it says to not lie to each other, and I did withhold my intentions from Rowan. But Lord, you know my heart. I wasn't trying to be manipulative. I wanted to help. I pray for grace, not just for me, but for this city that wants to truly honor the spirit of Christmas. In Jesus' name, amen. She took in a deep breath, shook it off, and stood up straight. Whatever was going to happen, she would deal with it, and she didn't blame Rowan one bit for his reaction. The music began to shift, signaling the transition. The children's choir finished to roaring applause, their little voices echoing into the night as they waved and ran off stage. Showtime. The announcer stepped forward, voice booming across the square. And now, Petersburg, please welcome home your very own Rowan Rhodes. The crowd erupted. Cheers, whistles, people rising to their feet, craning their necks toward the stage entrance. Janice didn't move, didn't breathe. The entrance empty, her heart dropped. A flicker of something crossed the mayor's face. Janice, and then movement, from the side, not grand, not dramatic, just him. Rowan stepped into the light, the fit from the boutique, his clean cut, the quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. But it wasn't the suit that made the crowd lose their minds. It was him, the hometown hero, back. The sound that followed was deafening. Janice's hand flew to her mouth, a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding finally escaping. He made it. Rowan didn't play to the crowd, didn't wave or boast. He just walked forward, steady, grounded. But just before he reached the mic, his eyes lifted, found hers across all that noise, all those people. Her. And in that look. Soft, certain. I'm here. Janice felt it all at once. Relief, gratitude, something deeper she didn't have time to name. The mayor leaned in, barely containing her satisfaction. Well, she murmured, I like him. Maeve grinned. He came back, and just look at him. Janice, girl, you did that. Janice didn't answer because she was too busy staring. Rowan reached the mic, paused, looked out at the crowd, at the kids in the front row, his kids from camp and the scouts. He nodded once. They are the real reason that I came today. Can we get hand claps for the kids? He pointed to the children, and the crowd clapped enthusiastically. But then he simply said, hey, with a raised hand. The crowd quieted instantly. Rowan took a breath, stepping up to the mic, glancing out at the crowd. He looked at the generic speech that had been written for him, but then looked again at his campers, and lastly where Janice stood. Then he quickly balled up the speech and looked with determination to the audience. "Well, I was told to keep this short," he said, a small grin forming, which, if you've ever heard me call a play, you know is already a stretch. A few chuckles ripple through the crowd. He nodded, settling in. "I used to think happiness was something you had to chase and fight to keep, like a win on the field, something you earn and just as quickly lose." Rowan continued, shrugging lightly. "And for a while I did a lot of winning, but I also took some hard hits. The kind that don't just knock you down, they change you." Maeve whispered to Janice, "Is this the speech you wrote?" Janice replied, "No, he's speaking from the heart." Maeve nodded, understanding. Rowan was silent for a moment before starting again. "When everything I built my life on fell apart, I didn't just lose the game. I lost myself a little too. Truth is, I didn't know who I was without it, so I did what a lot of people do when they're hurting." He glanced down, then back up. "I disappeared." You could hear a pin drop. Rowan continued. "I told myself the best parts of my life were behind me, that happiness was something I had already used up." A small shake of his head. "But I was wrong." His eyes lifted, scanning the crowd, landing, just briefly, somewhere meaningful. "Turns out, sometimes you just need someone to remind you who you are. Someone who sees you not for who you used to be, but for who you still have a chance to become." He smiled softly and very quickly at Janice. "And sometimes you need a place to come back to, a place that doesn't care about your worst day, just that you showed up again." He let that settle. "This city, this community, you gave me that. You welcomed me back when I wasn't even sure I deserved it." He took a breath. Then, "And now I can honestly say I'm not just glad to be home." A slight catch in his voice, but steady. "I'm glad to be me again." The smile returns, a little brighter. "So thank you for the second chance, for the grace, and for reminding me what really matters." He paused before adding, "And don't worry, I'll keep the rest of my speeches under 5 minutes. No promises during football season." Applause, loud, emotional, real. Rowan glanced to the side to Janice just for a second. And she felt it. Afterwards was friendly chaos. People moving, talking, celebrating, but somehow they found each other anyway. Janice stepped in front of him. "You did amazing." Rowan shook his head dismissively. "You still set me up." She smiled. "And you delivered." There was a long pause. They stood a little too close. The noise faded just a little. "I don't like being used," Rowan said. Janice said quietly, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. We really needed your help. Look at how well the market is doing tonight. This is all because of you." Rowan shook his head and sighed. "I dunno, I'm still upset." Just then Janice looked at him. She really looked at him. There was one question on her mind. If you're so upset, then why are you smiling? He hadn't realized he was, but he couldn't help it. No matter what Janice had done didn't matter. He had already fallen. Fallen for her time and dedication to helping him remember who he was. He had fallen for her since the very first moment he looked her up and down on his porch. She was persistent, tenacious. But when she asked why was he smiling, that broke his armor, just enough. And then there was a shift. There was a moment, that moment. His eyes dropped to her lips, hers flicked back up. He leaned in slow, careful, like giving her time to stop him. She didn't. In fact, she moved in closer, their breath mixed. Closer. "Rowan." They both jumped apart. "Maeve, of course it was Maeve." "Great job, Mr. Rhodes, you're needed for photos," she said, clocking the tension immediately. Janice turned away fast. Rowan dragged a hand over his face. "Yeah, of course." The night kept going, bigger, louder, better. Vendors sold out. Kids ran wild. The downtown square, alive again, good as new. Better than new. Janice finally slowed down near the end, just for a second, looking out at everything. Lights, laughter, life. "We did it," she said softly to herself. "Yeah," Rowan replied behind her. She turned with surprise. He was closer this time. No stage. No crowd between them, just them. "You really saw it," he said, "before anybody else did." Janice shrugged lightly. "That's my job." "No," he said, "it's not." That landed. A quieter pause this time. No interruption, no chaos, just them. "You brought me back," he added. Janice shook her head. "You walked back." "Because you asked." Their eyes locked again. That same pull, stronger now, less hesitation, more knowing. He stepped closer, slower this time, intentional. Her breath paused. Rowan, but she didn't stop him, didn't move, didn't look away, and this time no interruptions. He kissed her, not rushed, not unsure, certain, a hand at her jaw, her fingers gripping his coat, warm, deep, long overdue. When they pulled apart, neither of them stepped back right away. That, Janice said softly, was not in the event plan. Rowan smirked. Best part of the night. On Christmas Day, Janice sat snuggled beside Rowan, checking emails on his couch. He was yelling at the Christmas Day game like a coach, while she caught up on work. Rowan had invited her over to celebrate together, and of course she was no fool. It was her first visit to the house that required no strategy. He began gently closing her laptop. Today we celebrate the birth of Jesus. You're right, okay, one more email and then we head to church. I want to introduce you to folks. Oh, and Tay is singing today. Janice checked the last email and immediately started jumping up and down. What happened? Rowan asked. You happened, she exclaimed, then grabbed her phone. She dialed a number. Merry Christmas, Mayor, Janice exclaimed. Merry Christmas, Janice. You did a fantastic job yesterday. Thanks, Mayor, but there's more. You're not going to believe this. We won. Petersburg took the National Holiday Showcase, and it's all thanks to everyone coming together this season. From the other end, the normally reserved mayor screamed so loudly Janice had to pull the phone away from her face. Thank the Lord, you really are her. Janice laughed. I'm her. You're spending too much time with Maeve and Brianna. They're rubbing off on you. The mayor smirked. Now go back to your boo thing. Mayor, how did you? I'm the mayor. I know everything, she said before hanging up on her. After Christmas, everything moved fast. Like blink and suddenly you're seriously a couple fast. 1 minute they were spending celebrating Christmas together for the first time. The next they were sharing coffee every morning like it had always been that way. Rowan dated Janice like a true gentleman, winning and dining her and even holding hands at very packed events. Petersburg noticed. Of course it did. Rowan Rhodes, who once avoided the city, was now everywhere again. But this time, different. Took a few smart sport analyst gigs with networks. Showed up when he wanted, said what he meant, left before it got too noisy. And because he actually had a sense of humor, he started a podcast called The New Man with Mr. Henderson and JJ. It was chaotic, it was hilarious. It was weirdly insightful on everything from sports to men's styling to Bible studies. And somehow it worked. But his favorite thing was still the quiet. About a year after he first moved to Petersburg, he was gardening in the back of his Victorian home with Janice, their new favorite pastime. Don't pull that, it's not ready, Rowan barked. Janice froze mid-garden bed sabotage. It looks ready. It looks ready, Rowan said, crouched beside her, amused. That's how they get you. She narrowed her eyes. You're talking about vegetables or relationships? Both, he said, grinning. She rolled her eyes but smiled anyway. They'd spent the whole day like this, dirt under their nails, sun low in the sky, no audience, no pressure. Just them wearing their oldest clothes. Rowan leaned back on his heels, watching her. This woman, bossy, brilliant, beautiful. Slightly aggressive with the rosemary. His. Yeah, that still surprised him. He pointed suddenly. Wait, what's that? Janice turned. What? In the flowers, right there, something's shining. She frowned, leaned in, brushed past a cluster of winter blooms, and froze. Rowan, she gasped, because in her hand, catching the last bit of sunlight, was a diamond ring. She looked up slowly. He was already watching her. Not joking now, not teasing, just open, vulnerable in a way that didn't fit the size of him. Thought you might finally notice a project that I've been working on, he said softly. Her breath stopped for a second, and then she laughed, half shocked, half emotional, and then didn't laugh at all, because he stepped closer, and everything shifted. Janice, he said, quieter now, I came back here thinking my life was done, like I missed it, missed everything that mattered. She shook her head, already tearing up. You didn't. I did, he said gently, continuing with, and you know I paid cash for it. Janice laughed, although tears were forming. But then you tricked me, he said, her eyes widened. Excuse me. You did, he said with a sly smile. You used those kids to get me back out here. To get me to care again. She opened her mouth, closed it, because yeah. He stepped closer anyway. And I'm glad you did. That landed, soft, real. I needed it, he continued. I needed you even when I didn't know it. Now she was fully crying, which she absolutely hated doing in public. Thankfully, this wasn't. Rowan, she said again, because his name was all that she could get out. You saw me, he said. Not who I was, not who I messed up being, just me. He took the ring from her hand, his fingers brushing hers as he continued, electricity sparking throughout her entire being. And somehow, you made me want to be that guy again. He was closer now. My life didn't start over when I came back here, he said. It started over when you walked back into it. Okay, that did it. Rowan, she whispered. He exhaled, steadying himself, then finally dropped to one knee. Janice Jones, he said, looking up at her like she was the only thing that existed. I love you. I love who you are. I love how you fight for everything you believe in, and I really love how you boss me around in public. She laughed through tears. Good, he needed that. I don't want a life that doesn't have you in it, he said, so don't make me imagine one. He held up the ring. Marry me. No long pause, no overthinking, just yes, a breath, then stronger. Yes, Rowan, yes. He was up in a second, pulling her into him like he wasn't risking letting go ever again. And this time, when he kissed her, it was full, deep, and filled with all the emotions that he couldn't articulate with words. Long enough to make up for every missed chance, every quiet look, every moment he hadn't taken before. She laughed against his lips. You know I meant to tease you that first time, you remember outside at the market, that it took you long enough to kiss me. He grinned. I had to make sure you were ready. I planned an entire town event to get you here, she said. You knew I was ready. He blinked. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, Rowan said, and they both laughed. They stood there, wrapped up in each other, dirt, diamonds, and all. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt easy. They didn't wait long for nuptials, because of course they didn't. They'd be married 1 month later. Petersburg got a Christmas Day wedding. If you've listened to Maeve's and Brianna's story, then you know that Petersburg loves Christmas Day weddings. But Janice was small, beautiful, a little chaotic, perfect. Janice wore a modern peplum gown, Rowan looking like he stepped out of a second-chance fantasy romance. JJ cried, loudly, Mr. Henderson acted like he didn't. The kids cheered like it was game day. Brianna, along with her husband Grant, plus Maeve and Tay Kim, who made sure that he was back in time for the wedding, and of course the mayor, they all swooned at everything. And when Rowan kissed his bride, yeah, that one. Even better than at the garden, even better than any kiss they shared. Later, walking back through town, her hand tucked into his coat, she looked up at him. Coach Rhodes, she teased. He smirked. Mrs. Rhodes, she smiled. I like that. Me too. And under a sky full of soft winter stars in the town that had watched them fall apart and find their way back, they came home. To their Victorian home. To each other. This has been Christmas in Old Town, where ambitious women, unexpected love, and the holiday spirit collide. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Hit the notification bell and fall in love with our stories. More romances are coming right here in Petersburg. The more people subscribe, the more love stories we can tell. Be blessed and have a very merry everything.